Hello, everybody. Once again, I am Lehman Crafton Jr., aka Zorvalachan, Less Than Guru, and today is the 25th day of the 31-day character creation challenge. And today I'm going to be doing another Palladium book, Beyond the Supernatural second edition RPG. I do have the first edition, but I wanted to do the second edition for a couple of reasons. One is because I personally like this one better, and two is the first, how to say, it was writing that I did as submitting it to a company and having it published was for this game here. It was unofficial material, and the Rifter for Palladium was kind of like a I guess it was a quarterly little, I won't even say magazine. It was a small book, kind of just like their regular books, but it came out as probably the only Palladium book that came out when pretty much on time. Palladium does have a reputation for being delayed forever for various reasons, but the Rifter was one that had material that other people wrote, sent in, and it wasn't considered official, but it was optional. Things that they liked, they were the ones who chose what to put in it. And I wrote a supplement for this Beyond the Supernatural, to kind of bring in mundane things that I didn't want this to be a what's the supernatural thing of the week. I thought adding things that were real, like real type crimes and serial killers that had nothing to do with the supernatural and things like that could be interesting, and a few new professions and things like that. Um, and it was accepted, and it got printed and published by. So it's the first published thing that I did as an author that was not self-publishing. I'll say that it wasn't quite official, but it wasn't self-published. Somebody else read my work and thought that it was good enough to pay me some money to put it in one of their books. So one of the things also that I like about this is you can choose a profession, and your profession is kind of what gives you skills. In the first one, it did what other games along that time, and they're kind of modern games, but it's like superhero games, Heroes Unlimited, and beyond the first edition of Beyond the Supernatural, and things like that. There was a random role to determine your education. So you could be something from, like, high school education to a PhD. And if you had a PhD, you had all of these skills. And if you had a high school education, you didn't. And even with somebody with a couple of college degrees, I don't quite agree with that, because you might learn different skills, but I don't think that you just learn more skills. It's just they're structured in a different way. They're different types of things. And with the profession, though, the profession, they have lots of different professions. They kind of give you skills that are tailored towards that type of profession, which I enjoyed. They added a few character OCCs, occupational character classes. I say character class, but the official thing for Palladium books is OCC, or PCC for psychics character classes. And then sometimes they have an RCC, racial character classes, but even those sound like obvious what they are. Sometimes they cross the line. Sometimes they'll have a race, but it chooses a OCC, and sometimes they have a race and it'll be an RCC. And sometimes it'll be a psychic race, but it'll be an RCC, and just types of weird stuff like that. But this one here deals with just the modern world. It's more X-Filey than, say, what's the Jim Butcher books. It's more, this stuff is in the background. It's even more in the background than, say, the Magicians, other modern things, or Harry Potter, or things like that. It's like most people. you have zero belief in the supernatural, and it is on the fringes. It's not like a whole big society or anything like that, but it is out there. And there's different things that you could be. They even have an ordinary person. You can just make up your OCC, your occupational character class can be ordinary person. And the first edition had victim rules that you could be victims and you could play your Friday the 13th or your Freddy's Nightmare on Elm Street type thing game, and you could just get picked off um, kind of one after another, and a lot of people enjoyed that type of thing for a one nighter. I did a couple of one nighters that was in the back of that book. It was like called something like the Teeny Boppers Babysitter Club or something like that, but you're a bunch of like 12-year-old girls, and it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like big monsters coming up. It was kind of a neat game that you could play with your kids, and I played that as 20 at least twice with 20-year-olds, guys, and we all found it completely funny and fun and amazing, and it was cool like that. So that was just one thing I wanted to bring up. Was the first edition was not bad. It's just I like the second edition. Now, if you do think about getting this, know that even though this was published in 2005, and they absolutely made the promise that they were going to be on time with the magic rules and the monster rules, they still have not come out with those rules. Basically, Kevin Siembieda always has one problem after another, and I'm not going to judge on whether they're legitimate problems or not legitimate, but he cannot stick to deadlines. I'll just say that. And so the monster book, which might be important if you're having monsters in it, and the magic book are not available. Now, I don't mind the magic book not being available personally. This has all the psychic stuff in it, and whenever Palladium tries to do magic in a modern sense, I don't feel that they do a good job of it. When I think modern magic, it's especially in a world that don't have everybody knowing that they're supernatural. There shouldn't be things like fireballs and stuff like that. And basically, Palladium just takes its magic list and throws it into um, whatever book they're doing. They take their Palladium Fantasy and they threw it into Heroes Unlimited, and they threw that into a little bit when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were having that, and they threw it into other modern stuff. I think modern magic that is in a world where supernatural stuff is supposed to not exist very much, there should be things that would help your investigators kind of in this. You are the X-Files type people investigating the strangeness things in the world. And I see things more like things that would help you with CSI, both for and against it. If you go to a crime scene, things that would help you extract information from that crime scene, that supernatural horror came out and did some bad things. And on the reverse side of that, if you're having a fight with a supernatural demon and you shoot it up and kill it, and it transforms into the body of its host, you've shot guns. You have gunshot residue on your hand. Your bullets can be traced back to the cartridges. And nobody ever thinks about that. Nobody ever just goes, oh, yeah, I'm leaving a ton of stuff. I stepped in this thing's blood, and then I stepped on a piece of cardboard. Now I got my footprint is out there. I touched this door handle. Now my fingerprint is out there. I've left DNA on a bottle of water that just all this stuff, and none of that ever comes out in modern games. And just having a few spells that would say clean up or erase evidence or things like that, I always feel would be interesting and appropriate in a modern setting. So not having those would be bad in my opinion for a magic book, and I just really doubt that when this magic book comes out for this game that it will be that. And you can play it as just everybody being a different type of psychic character, and that works very well. And the monsters, Palladium has tons of books of monsters. All you have to do is you figure out the threat level, and then that multiplies your inner strength points, which are points that you use to power your abilities. We'll go into that, and I'll make a couple of observations and stuff that I really love the system, but I don't think it was quite pulled off perfectly. But this is a standard Palladium book, and this one, even though I actually played a short-lived, but it was a decent campaign with this. This is one of the. It looks very much less used, but Palladium always has really good binding, really good books. They're usually only just black and white, 2 columns, which some people might think don't have good production values, but they are books that will stand the test of time. They're not something that looks very pretty and then within 2 months of using it, they go bad. So what I want to do first is I want to go to see where the rules for creating character. Game rules. Okay. So somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, Palladium switched, and they used to always have their character creation rules in the front, and then they'd have the setting stuff in the back. And now they have the character creations in the back and your character classes in the front, which I find very, very strange. But it's still, you look, this is that chart that was in all the other ones. Here it's a 16. Anything lower, you don't necessarily get a negative. I think I know at one time they started doing that, or they have it as an optional rules. But this is a SDC world. It's not MDC. I also believe that I've read their Mystic China book, and Mystic China I think would fit in very well with the BTS 2 game, and that those systems could overlap and complement each other. So that might be another way to bring in a different type of magic into it. But we're just going to go down the list. And I do like this character sheet. The character sheet is a horizontal sheet, not a vertical sheet. But it looks a lot less cluttered than some of their other character sheets. So I do kind of like this. But we're going to go down the 8 attributes. We're going to roll everything in order and just take what rolls, and I want to make sure that they didn't do something to change their rules. So it says 3 6-sided dice. So right there, it sounds like the Palladium. You roll your 3 6-sided dice, and it basically says that if you get an initial roll of 3d6 with the 16, 17, or 18, then you roll again, and you add to it. And if another one is rolled, then you roll one more to it. And then you stop no matter what happens. So that's how you can get up to a 30 in this game. I think I somehow missed that in the Palladium Robotech, the first iteration of Robotech, and it only allowed one additional. But then what you would do is this one has the physical skills give you bonuses, and they might add to your attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of move that off. I'll go ahead and I'll move the book. Is that? And then just have the character sheet here. And then I'm just going to roll my 3d6 down the line. So already I got a not very good IQ. And average mental endurance. Not very good MA. Looked like that one was going to get somewhere, but not a good PS. Okay, average PP. Average PE, physical endurance, physical beauty. I'm purdy. 16. Wow, and I'm a fast runner, so I'm pretty and I run away. Maybe I am the last girl in a horror movie. So yes, speed never gives you anything except for the raw ability to run, as it's always described. PB actually 16 might. And wait, I rolled a 16. So that means I roll an additional d6 to those. And then if I roll a 6 on that, I roll again. So yeah, I haven't had to do this on Palladium before. So my 16 is a 3, so that is actually a 19. And then my 17 is 2, so that is also a 19. So I have a pretty fast, a pretty fast character, with the other ones either not good or average, pretty much. So here it is: speed, no special bonus other than the raw natural ability to run that's in everything. But my PB actually does. That is a charm and impress that they never explain what it does, how you use it, give any examples. It's just there. And if you look over at the 19, that is a 45% chance to have something that the game master would have to put into play. Otherwise, it will never come into play for any reason. So I'm just going to put in parentheses plus 45%. And I will remember that that is to charm and or impress. Even in the attribute description up here, physical beauty, an indication of the physical attractiveness of a character. A physical beauty of 16 or higher is rewarded with a bonus to charm or impress, which is never detailed anywhere else in any plating. But we'll do that. I don't have so far. I don't have any supernatural strength or anything. Hit points and SDC. This is an SDC, but to get your hit points, and then we start off with SDC first. But that is determined by um, all PCC psychic character classes get a D10 plus 12 SDC to start. Some PCCs and occupations may offer SDC bonus. Many physical skills provide SD bonuses. Okay, so I will, if all of them are 1d10 plus 12, and then they just add to that, I will go ahead and roll. So I have a 12 plus a d10. I'll get out a d10. That's a 4 plus 12, so it's going to be 16 SDC. So I will write that here. And then I believe hit points are just the 1d6 added to my physical endurance. So I'm going to make sure that's what it states. Because sometimes they slip in little rules and things like that, so that are different, and you never know about it. But no, this is the physical endurance indicates your character's base starting amount of hit points. Add another 1d6 hit points for each new building hit point. Okay, then roll a 1d6 and add it to the hit points. So yes, okay. So my d6, add it to my PE here is 11. So 2 and 11 is 13. So I have 13 hit points and 16 SDC. Basically, they're the same thing. Normally you lose your SDC first. There's a very few things that might go directly to hit points. Hit points are what can kill you if you go negative PE. That was a rule in Palladium long before negative Constitution was a rule in D&D. Used to be you got to 0 D&D, you're dead. and now it's hugely negative constitution, and that probably directly came from Palladium. Palladium had been doing that since the early to mid 80s. Okay, so then you select a PCC, which is the psychic character classes. Now, the psychic character classes are interesting in here because they have a mechanic that you start off with a very low or lower amount of inner strength points, ISP. And what happens is when you get close to the supernatural, you get this like adrenaline rush of psychic, this like psychic adrenaline rush when you're around the supernatural and you're investigating it. And the closer you get to it, you start getting multipliers to it. So if you have like a 4, then there might be something that boosts it to an 8 and then boosts it higher and higher. And there's various levels on how it gets boosted. And I thought that was really cool. And then once you defeat the thing, then it goes back low. And that's the reasoning why if you put people together, and a lot of this background is based off of a lot of concepts from the 1970s, that things like Uri Geller, spoon bending, and parapsychology, figuring out if psychic abilities work. And whenever you would test them under like double blind standards, none of them could ever, hi Mars, none of them could ever reproduce it. And they'd always say, oh, it's because we're being interfered with. Well, it's because in real life they're just shams and charlatans. But if you make a world base off of that, you have to why aren't these things able to be tested scientifically? And it's because you only are able to really do these things and use these abilities when you're around the supernatural. They kind of give it as a evolution, a supernatural defense that some humans have to help them against the supernatural. And I found that to be really cool, except you then could use it like a Geiger counter. You could use it as a detection that when the game master was like, okay, everybody up your ISP by 4, you would go, oh, okay, we're at a threat level of this. And that's why when I did my, wrote my supplemental thing and turned it in, I said that if you think that it's something, like your character, not you as a player going, oh, I think it's this, so that way I want some extra ISP. But if your character thought it was something, it could give it a boost. Maybe you hear something in the dark and you get that little boost and your ISP's doubled, but you find out that it's just a cat. Well, then it goes back down. But there was really some monster in the background, and so you thought it was a cat. It went up for a little bit. You discovered, or you thought it was a cat. It would go back down, and then when the monster came out again, then it would go up. So I kind of was trying to introduce that aspect of it. So you as a player couldn't metagame and use that knowledge to basically figure out kind of the strength of what you're fighting until you're absolutely confronted by it, not proximity. And I think in the main rules they do have it as a more of a proximity, and they do have a few monsters here. I'm not they don't have a full monster, but they have enough to give you a good base on things to do. But they have I wanted to say different PCCs that they have. They have like the diviner that do dowsing and reading signs, palm reading, firewalker, which is kind of a pyrokinetic genius, a ghost hunter. They make items that they use to affect ethereal creatures, latent psychic, a nega psychic, which always is hilarious. That's somebody who absolutely will never believe in the supernatural, will come up with every possible reason why the supernatural does not exist. It's even beyond a skeptic. A skeptic will go with the evidence. If the evidence says that it's not there, then the skeptic is going to believe science. But if something ever proves itself, the skeptic then will admit that that is the new rule, where the nega psychic will never admit it. And what's the ironic, funny part is they actually have psychic powers that nullify supernatural things. So their power to nullify a supernatural thing reinforces their idea that there's no supernatural, and I find that extremely amusing. Then they have the parapsychologist, which is just somebody who knows how to do psychic things. And a lot of the more modern ghost hunting type things where you pull out a calculator, and if it messes up, instead of going, oh, it's a messed up calculator, I need to buy a new one, you're like, oh, that means that there's some ghosts around and things like that. But they have the parapsychologist, physical psychic, psi mechanic, psychic healer, psychic medium, psychic sensitive, and then rules for that. So there's a lot of different things to play. I think I am going to be a regular person. I rolled stats that are not good except for physical beauty and speed. So yes, I am making a end girl, the pretty girl who is able to run away, and that's basically what she's going to do. So I don't know. If I was in a game, I would not make it a useless character, but not having high like PS or IQ or PE, things like that. Um, I don't see this character being a fighter type character. It's definitely, and even with an MA of 8, she's not going to necessarily be extremely charming. I mean, she has that 45 to charm and impress, but the MA is more of your charisma, the mental affinity. So you pick your alignments, and there's no neutrals. We've gone over that with Palladium before. I will go with the a female, and I'll be scrupulous. I'll be good, but not the lawful good of principled. Just going through it, experience level system. Palladium still has the different different character classes have a different amount of you need a different amount of experience points to go up per level. They do have that nice chart. They didn't actually well, they might have cut and pasted into a new layout, but they do have that nice how much experience points you get, and it's based off of things that you do, not necessarily how much a monster has. So it's not like any monster has an XP value. Basically, you get 100 points for quick thinking, idea, or action that was helpful. You get uh, 25 to 50 points for if you have a clever, but it ends up being a futile idea. You still get to learn something from succeeding. And then they added 0 to combat. If you look, there's 3 ways of doing things combat. Combat, you get 0 if it's just to show off. If you're just killing something and you're too proud to stand down, you just want to aggravate the other person, you have that mentality. And even though this is a modern fantasy, but the mentality of let me sleep here, otherwise I'll fireball you're in, you get 0. You're just being a dick. Then if it's actually a minor menace, you get 25 to 50. If it's a major, 75 to 100. And then if something is great, it might normally get up to 400. If you look at the higher ones down here, though, these are for things like endangering the character's own life to help or save others, a critical plan or action that saves the entire group and or many people. 500 to 700 for genuine life and death self-sacrifice in a situation where the character's heroism seems likely or almost certain to cost him his life. So things like that in Palladium are what get you experience points. And I know a lot of people don't like Palladium books. They think of riffs, but this is a way to stay away from murder hobos. Really, if you're killing things gets you 0 because you're just being an idiot. Or for something, like the big bad end guy and you're getting 400, but you're doing things that actually help out people and find other ways to do things. Just, a clever, useful, helpful idea or action is going to get you 100, up to 100 points. 25. You're going to be much better doing these type of activities. So I just wanted to point that out. Here's their list of their experience points. So if I'm a regular person, The ordinary person, 1,875 is what I would need to go up to the next level. So I'm at one, and they never have it, and I always put that slash on how many I need. So I usually put a little ND and then write what I need there. It's 1,875. Just all of these are a little bit higher than the basic Palladium fantasy that I did. I think maybe even the Robotech one. You have your random things of age and birth order, age that your psionics, your powers first manifested, and things like that. A whole lot of just random things, combat rules. I'm trying to find where the skill rules, where the professions are. Here's descriptions. Ah, okay. So they have lots, maybe around three. They have about 3 pages or three professions per thing, and they have it. They, if you want to, you can roll randomly what your profession is. And there was a couple of professions that I added to when I wrote for this, and it could be anything like here, antiques rare book dealer. They had factory workers, antiques dealers, amateur athletic competitor, professional thief, a veterinarian, lawn and landscaping gardener or groundskeeper. Just lots of all different types of security specialists, a stage magician. Um, in the game that I was running, we actually had a stage magician who was a fire starter, and he just pretended that everything he did was an illusion. He used his psychic abilities on the stage, but just claimed that it was all trickery. So that's kind of interesting. And here's their list of all that. So again, there's 42 occupations, and you can usually pick or do the roll. Let's go ahead and do the roll. And one of the things I do like, and I wish they just fleshed it out a little bit more, is they finally started adding um, modifiers to the roll, depending on how much pressure and if you have cheap or faulty equipment. How you can just adjust this percentage that you rolled. And I'm not getting but there's a whole list of things. The one that I don't like, I wish they gave you bonuses for things like you have the best equipment, or it's absolutely no pressure, or things like that. Or you can mix and match. You're under pressure, but you have good equipment. So but I do like that they at least added some modifiers. Because of these modifiers, I would not use the rule that says that you max out at 98. They always say that you max out at 98. You can't go higher because everybody might be able to fail something under bad situations. But when you then do bad situations as giving you possibly multiple negative modifiers, I think that you should be able to go above that 98, because then with the bad modifiers, it will lower under that. But let's go ahead and I will roll for, and I think this is probably my Mars got into my dice. I left them out overnight, and it looks like he ran off with one of my percentile D10. So I'll roll two other ones and call. Ooh, okay, I'll call black is the tens digit. The white is the one digit. So 61. 61. And that is a police detective, CSI. So, not exactly, but close to what I am in real life. So, CSI. I guess I didn't have a page number there. Probably. I probably just skipped. Where's that? 60. So that's under police detective. P. I think I actually did a crime lab employee and anthropologist I added. Okay, so police detective, crime scene investigator. So you just get skills, and I'm just going to write down the skills again. I'm not going to total them because all I'd have to do is go to the book, um, the skill page, and then write down the actual percentage. But I do like because on this character sheet also they do give you a base and a bonus and what the plus to level is and what the total is. That is useful instead of trying to add everything up and then you have to recalculate everything every time you go up a level. So here, the only thing that you would do is you would just see the percent per level and then add that to the total and change the total. So if I'm looking here at the occupational skills, I get automobile at a +8. So that would be my bonus. Bodybuilding or athletics. So I will go athletics, and I'm just going off of that off my head. Um, Seriously, if I was doing this as a real game, I would probably look at those two skills, see which ones give me the better bonuses. That's just one of the sad things about these Palladium systems that different skills increase your physical attributes so you can really min max, especially if you would have rolled a decently over there. Combat driving, crime scene investigation, so that makes a lot of sense. Got a +15 bonus to that. Hand to hand expert. They actually have expert here. So I'm going to just go ahead and write that there. Intelligent, or yeah, intelligence. +12. Interrogation. +15. Law. +25. Military etiquette. I guess they're using that as the police thing. Structure 10%. Radio basic +15. Running, and that's going to be one that adds something. And with my speed, I will probably even have a super more high speed. Streetwise +10. And now looking at these skills, now I understand why I actually made an actual crime lab person, because this isn't exactly what a person in a crime lab would be doing. This is the person who would be gathering stuff at the scene, not actually doing anything or doing a little things with it. Um, Radio running, streetwise surveillance. But these systems that took this off of the OCC, so it's all in your profession. It made it easy because then you can, as a game master or somebody else, you can add professions easy and overlap them with the character classes. So that is something that I really liked. And then weapon proficiencies, I get blunt, be for my billy club, blackjack, whatever you want to call it, handgun. and either shotgun or rifle. I'll do shotgun. And then elective, I would select 6 total from the standard available. And then I would get a 10% on communications, paranormal studies, physical, technical, and transportation skills. Secondary skills available would be 2 secondary. And then special bonuses, I'll just write those up here, are +1 to perception rolls and +2 to pull punch. And then they say advantages. Um, you get a legal sidearm, enjoys discretionary judgment on the street, has entire police department and its data files as a resource, develops some and will develop others through role-playing contacts, members of other police departments, fire rescue, hospital personnel, etc. And then disadvantages, tough, dangerous work, puts you in the line of fire every day, questionable respect, some people love but others do not trust or like, things like that. And then they give you an annual salary. So that is all things. So let's see where the actual skills were back here. Have a nice breakdown of all the skills by the categories. They do say that they took away some skills. They say every skill is described in full. Again, only the skills most appropriate to BTS setting are presented. They probably went through their big file of thousands of skills and decided that they really only needed ones that made sense in beyond the supernatural. So I'm not going to go through all of these skills. That would be just something that I would have to look at, make sure that I'm getting things that I wanted. But I did want to show just with this one athletics and kind of explain why. Athletics will give me a +1 to parry and dodge. So I automatically am going to get a +1 to parry and dodge. I'm going to get a +1 to roll with impact, punch, or fall. Uh, Roll with punch, impact. I already had the +2 to pull punch. Is that over? Yeah, that's here. And they always add to each other. A D6 to speed. So I had a 19, and now I have a 23. And a D8 to SDC. So I only got 2 more points, but that's still an 18 instead of a 16. And then, if I remember, I also had running. So if I look at running, this gives me a +1 to PE. So now that's a 12, and because my PE went up, then my hit points go up. And then 4d4 to speed. So 3, 7, 9, 11. Look at that, 11, which would get me up to like a 34, 34 speed off of that chart even. just because I took 2 extra skills. And that's one of the things that I do think that the physical skills, when I first got into Palladium games, that had it, because Robotech had it in a way. The old Palladium Fantasy First Edition did not, but um, there are other games, Heroes Unlimited, and all of those is where it really started showing, and Rifts it started showing. And it's just after a while I realized just how min-maxy it is, because running and athletics are two of the lower type ones that you actually add things to. Um, and then the running also gives me a D6 more to SDC. Did I? No, I did that right. So 2 more to SDC. So I've been rolling bad, but still I got 20 SDC just because I got a couple of things. As I mentioned before, you do things like boxing, that gives you the additional attack. Um, 2 more to physical strength, 3d6 to SDC. Wrestling is another one that adds 4d6 to SDC, 2 to PS, 1 to PE. So there's just lots and lots of shenanigans that you can legally do. The bodybuilding and weightlifting, 2 to PS and 10 to SD. So if I got all of those things, um, I would like, and that's what I, under my 6 skills, that's what I would be doing. I'm looking, I don't have these abilities scores. I rolled CSI, I'm a police officer. Um, Even though I'm not necessarily always directly dealing with criminals as a beat cop, when there's a crime scene, then I go there and there might be stuff, especially in the beyond the supernatural. It probably was something that was done supernaturally, so I would want those attributes to be higher. So I would get all of those and I would add to my attacks. I would add to this. I would add to that. Um, and I'm not going to go through that just because there's would be a ton of stuff and I'm already on 50 minutes. But then I wanted to be a ordinary person from just the stats that I rolled. After I like gained all that stuff, maybe I'd be a ghost hunter. In the daytime, I'm a police officer, and at night, I'm a ghost hunter. But um, I'm just gonna go with that ordinary person. See what they ordinary people 64. They have that right in the middle of the character classes, so we might have went alphabetically. So here's ordinary person, ordinary people. They usually have a little blurb about them, a lot of fluff. Um, Basically, these gives you the bonuses that you have. You need 15 or higher to save versus psionics, so I write that down here. My base. +1 to perception, so I have +2. I don't see where that might be here. Um, so just being an ordinary person, I already see better. And I get a +1 to save versus horror factor, which I don't understand for a an ordinary person. Save versus magic. I guess that would be both spell and ritual. And then I would select 2 additional elective skills and 2 additional secondary skills. So the 6, then I would choose 2 more, and secondary, I would choose 2 more. You get PPE, which is potential psychic energy. That's base points. That's more of a magic user thing. But if you die, that doubles and it can be used. And that's why there are evil cults out there that do blood sacrifices, because they can do twice as much stuff with the energy. So I'll go ahead and just roll my Oh wait, adult 29 and older is the D4. So the older adult. So a one. I only have one PPE, so that would not be a some. I would not be attractive to. I'm attractive, but not to people wanting to use me as a magic thing. I'll just. I don't see it there, so I'll just write PPE one. Bonus operations. You get a. Okay. So then what I do is I roll a d6 plus 3, and they call it potential psychic energy. And what you do is, when you're young, you have a lot of potential, and then that potential goes away as you actually put it into use. So I would have 7 points. So then I would take those 7 points and I would divvy it up, basically spend them for anything. 2 points to increase one mental attribute by a point. So that's a way to increase that. That's a concept that I had forgotten. That's probably unique to this world. 2 points to either increase PP or PE by 1 point, which is the same thing. So 2 to increase PS PB by 1d4 points. So that's an interesting thing. I can increase my speed, which I don't have a need, but it would increase one of those 7 points would increase it a d4 plus 1. 4 could get you additional hit points or additional SDC. One would for so basically here's a list. I could spend all of those and get different things. And again, this would be something that I would want to really think about what I wanted for this character and then use those 7 points. There's a lot of choice. So I'm not going to do that just because Palladium is known to take a very long time to make characters, but I just wanted to kind of go over that stuff with it. I don't get any ISP because I'm not psychic, I'm an ordinary person. And then there's a whole standard list of the equipment that you get, and simple weapons, and then my profession would give me a type of sidearm, and here I can get even like my personal hunting rifle or shotgun or revolver or pistol. Housing, you get a house and stuff like that, and then it even tells you how much it costs per month, and then how much money you have in savings. So I'm going to go ahead and I will end that. Basically, I do like that profession system. It gives you some nice skills and then some choices. The thing with Palladium that I liked when I first read it, because it was like, oh, I get to adjust some skills. And I would agree with the PCC of you have these 7 points, and that's what the ordinary person would have done, would develop things. The other character classes, I don't think had those. I don't think I ever had somebody that did a ordinary person. So I'm just looking here at the Ghost Hunter, and they get all these things like mechanical aptitude and intuitive weapon knowledge and spirit fist and intuitive combat and things, and they get a 1d4 plus 4 base PPE. They get the base ISP, which they use to fuel their powers. They get to pick some psychic abilities, but they don't get that PPE to go from the potential to the actual. So that's actually a reason to play an ordinary person, the everyman. If you just want to be the ordinary Joe going up against the supernatural, if you want to be Xander from Buffy, you could be Xander from Buffy, and you could have a few points that you spend in interesting things. So that's actually something that I hadn't seen before because nobody ever picked an ordinary person, and that's kind of cool and interesting, and it kind of fits that. So here is my Beyond the Supernatural. Let me go ahead and name this. I'll put my name here. And I'm going to name this guy Rick. Or no, it's gonna be a girl. Sorry, that's right. Girl CSI. So I'm gonna name her Tammy uh, Johnson. She'll be Detective Johnson. So this is my Beyond the Supernatural second edition character, uh, Tammy Johnson, the CSI. And this was the 25th day of the 31-day character creation challenge. So I'm getting closer and closer to the end. You get to this far this weekend, I should be recording a playthrough. Had one player that might not be able to be there, so no matter what, I'm going to record a game. It's either going to be my fantasy based off of Palladium First Edition, or it'll be a Torg Unsung Hero playthrough. And then next Wednesday, I will be game mastering, and it will be streaming on Hit Roll Hit Die Twitch, and then on their YouTube channel, I will be game mastering Blood on the Blasted Lands for Torg Eternity with Torganized Play. So I'm very excited to be doing that. If you like this video, go ahead and click like. If you dislike, you can click dislike. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe and join me for the rest of my 31-day character creations, and then I'll be getting into reviews and probably be doing Torg Tuesdays and things like that. So until next time, I will catch you later.